Hey, it's Wednesday, the 13th of May, 2020. So it's time for Wednesday's Word. My name is Neil Davidson, one of the pastors here at Hope Chapel, and it's great just to have the opportunity again this week to share a word with you. I know the last couple of weeks you've heard from some different folks, and so it's great to have a chance to reconnect just a little bit. You know, as we've been going through this pandemic and all the changes that it's been bringing to people's lives, one of the refrains that I hear the most from people as I bump into them here or I talk to them on the phone or whatever. It's just people just saying, I'm tired. I'm just tired. You know, there's just something about this journey that we're going through that is just exhausting. I don't know if it's because we're having to do lots of different things that we didn't used to do, or the stuff that we usually had to do, we're doing it totally different than before, like working from home and doing stuff or whatever, or you know, just lots of different changes that are going on. Decisions gets harder, routines are upset, all that kind of thing. And we're just tired, right? We're just tired. And, you know, we might label that fatigue, right? We're just fatigued. And so I want to kind of ask the question, does the Bible have really anything to say about fatigue? And what are we supposed to do about it? And I think I have a good word for us today. There's a part of it I want to affirm our sense of feeling fatigued. Then I want to warn us about something and then challenge us. And then hear just a great word of invitation from Jesus to us. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about fatigue in general, you know, what and in some ways to affirm it biblically. You know, and I want to use a story from 1 Samuel chapter 30. 1 Samuel chapter 30. I'm not going to have a chance to read it today. I invite you to go and look at the story. But David is the leader of a group of 600 men, right? He's already been anointed to be the next king of Israel, but he hasn't become the king yet. In fact, he's on the run from the king. And they've set up their base, if you will, their village of operations in a place called Ziklag. And while David and his men are out on patrol, their village, their base gets raided and everything gets taken. Everybody's families get taken. Their wives, their children, everything are all gone, right? And they come back to Ziklag and they find it deserted and because it's been raided by the Amalekites. And the scripture talks about the fact that they just cried. They just wept until they were just too tired to weep anymore, it tells us. And then when they got past that, David got confirmation from the Lord that they should go after those that were taken from that had raided their village, and they would get everybody back. So David and the 600 men, they take off and they go after these guys. And they come to a river named Besor. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Besor, Besor. And in the act of getting across it, a third of the guys, 200 guys, are so totally exhausted by the time they get to the far side. They just say, we can't go on anymore. We just got to stop, right? We're just too tired, right? So David tells them to stay behind, and he and the 400 that are left, they head out. They have a great victory. Not a single person is lost. They recover everything that was taken from their village. They recover lots of stuff that was taken from other villages as well. So it's a tremendous blessing to them, if you will, the spoils of war that they're getting. And so when they come back on their way back, bringing all the families, all the stuff, all the herds, all that kind of thing, they come to these 200 guys who are waiting by their equipment at the river Besor. And some of those who had gone, part of the 400 said, well, you know, these guys didn't go out to the battle. They shouldn't get any of the spoils. You know, they can get their families back. Right? They can get their wives and children back. They can take their stuff back, right? But the rest of it, hey, they were quitters, right? They didn't do their part, so they're quitters. They're failures or whatever. And David intervenes and says, you just can't do that. So that's not the right thing. You know, and he insists that they receive a full share, right, of the spoils of war. Now, here's a couple points I want to make for us related to that today. You know, sometimes we look at getting tired as a failure. We see it as a weakness. It's not. It's not failing. It's not quitting. It's just normal, right? It's no. We get tired. Jesus got tired. He's so tired he's sleeping in a boat in the midst of a storm, right? You know, and there's all chaos going on around him, and he's in such a deep sleep that he won't wake up because he's tired, right? And so just because you're tired, you're fatigued, you're kind of worn out, doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's normal. right? You're not weak, right? It's not like you don't have as much faith as some other person because they're quote unquote still going. It's just normal. And our fatigue levels are different. So don't see yourself as a failure. I really don't see yourself as a failure. Here's my second story, and I do want to read this one. And this is, so the first one is to say, hey, it's normal. Embrace it. It's okay. Get some rest, recover, be ready for the moments that are coming down the road. But there's also a warning for us, and this comes from Genesis chapter 25. Some of you are going to be familiar with this story. Isaac had two sons. They were non-identical twins, born moments apart. Esau was the older, right? Jacob was the younger. And there's an account for us in Genesis chapter 5 about Esau and selling his birthright. Let me just read some verses. When the boys grew up, Esau became an expert hunter, an outdoorsman. But Jacob was a quiet man who kind of stayed at home, right? Isaac loved Jacob because he had a taste for wild game, but Rebekah loved Jacob. A little bit of a dysfunctional home, right? Once when Jacob was cooking a stew, Esau came in from the field exhausted, right? He'd been out hunting, working. He comes in, he's bone tired, worn out, right? He's exhausted, right? He says to Jacob, let me eat some of that red stuff because I'm exhausted. That is why he was also named Edom. But Jacob, not necessarily the highest moral moment for him. He said, well, I'll give some of this, but you're going to sell me your birthright. That means I get 2/3, you get 1/3 when dad's gone, right? Selling off his birthright. Look, says Esau, I'm about to die, so what good is a birthright to me? So Jacob says, swear it. So he swore it, and he sold his birthright in him. So here's the point I want to make. When you're fatigued, be careful. Because you don't always make the best decisions when you're tired. You don't always have the best attitude when you're tired, when you're worn out, when you're fatigued. So just make sure you're aware of what you're feeling. And because, when you and I get tired, just like Esau, we lose perspective. Right? We can't see the long run anymore. We have our time. We just see what's immediately in front of us, and we make at times impulsive decisions because we don't have the emotional and mental energy to make good decisions and be the people we want to be. So when you're worn out and you're tired, just be careful, right? Be aware of it. Avoid major decisions. Bite your tongue a little bit more in conversations, those kinds of things, because it can wear us out, right? And when it wears us out, we lose perspective. We let our guard down. We just see things in the immediate moment, and we don't make good decisions. And sometimes we're really not at our best relationally either. Third thing related to this, right? This is more of a challenge to you, right? And that, there's a passage of scripture in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 13, where Paul challenges the Thessalonians, and through them us, to not grow weary in doing good. Now, I want to flip that around, right? Using that word weary, fatigue, being exhausted. He said, don't grow tired of, don't get fatigued in doing good. I want to flip that around and put it in a positive sense. In the sense of saying, I think you can justly use this passage of scripture to say that we cannot use fatigue as an excuse for unfaithfulness. We can't use fatigue as an excuse for sin. Man, I was just tired. I was just worried. That's just the way it is, right? And we use fatigue, we use exhaustion as an excuse for sinfulness. Don't do that. Don't do that, right? You might want to look at the list of to-dos that you have to do and say, how many of these are really necessary to be faithful? And how many of these are just motivated by guilt or my obsessive compulsive or whatever, right? My desire to do more and more and more, but don't use fatigue as a season or as an opportunity, right? For sin. But instead, don't get tired of doing good, of staying faithful to God. We're tired. You can probably see it on my face. Not all of this is old age. Some of it is just being tired, right? And I really want to close this word today with an invitation from Jesus. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. One of one of the most precious and one of the most attractive kind of statements in the scripture where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. Come to me, all of you who are fatigued and it's weighing you down." And he said, "I will give you rest." Get some rest. Be strong. God bless.